But dearest of all to the heart of Jane was her sister Cassandra, about 3 years her senior. Their sisterly affection for each other could scarcely be exceeded. Perhaps it began on Jane's side, with the feeling of deference natural to a loving child towards a kind elder sister. Something of this feeling always remained, and even in the maturity of her powers and in the enjoyment of increasing success, she would still speak of Cassandra as of one wiser and better than herself. In childhood, when the elder was sent to the school of a Mrs. Latournelle in the Forbury at Reading, the younger went with her, not because she was thought old enough to profit much by the instruction there imparted, but because she would have been miserable without her sister, her mother observing that, if Cassandra were going to have her head cut off, Jane would insist on sharing her fate. This attachment was never interrupted or weakened. They lived in the same house and shared the same bedroom till separated by death. They were not exactly alike. Cassandra's was the colder and calmer disposition. She was always prudent and well-judging, but with less outward demonstration of feeling and less sunniness of temperament than Jane possessed. It was remarked in the family that Cassandra had the merit of having her temper always under command, but that Jane had the happiness of a temper that never required to be commanded. When Sense and Sensibility came out, some persons who knew the family slightly surmised that the two elder Miss Dashwoods were intended by the author for her sister and herself. But this could not be the case. Cassandra's character might indeed represent the sense of Eleanor, but Jane's had little in common with the sensibility of Marianne. The young woman who before the age of 20 could so clearly discern the failings of Marianne Dashwood could hardly have been subject to them herself. This was the small circle, continually enlarged, however, by the increasing families of 4 of her brothers, within which Jane Austen found her wholesome pleasures, duties, and interests, and beyond which she went very little into society during the last 10 years of her life. There was so much that was agreeable and attractive in this family party that its members may be excused if they were inclined to live somewhat too exclusively within it. They might see in each other much to love and esteem and something to admire. The family had abundance of spirit and vivacity, and was never troubled by disagreements, even in little matters, for it was not their habit to dispute or argue with each other. Above all, there was a strong family affection and firm union, never to be broken but by death. It cannot be doubted that all this had its influence on the author in the construction of her stories, in which a family party usually supplies the narrow stage, while the interest is made to revolve around a few actors. It will be seen also that although her circle of acquaintances was small, yet she found in her neighbourhood persons of good taste and cultivated minds. Her acquaintance, in fact, constituted the very class from which she took her imaginary characters, ranging from the Member of Parliament or large landed proprietor to the young curate or younger midshipman of equally good family. And I think that the influence of these early associations may be traced in her writings, especially in 2 particulars. First, that she is entirely free from vulgarity, which is so offensive in some novels, of dwelling on the outward appendages of wealth or rank, as if they were things to which the writer was unaccustomed. And secondly, that she deals as little with very low as with very high stations in life. She does not go lower than the Miss Steeles, Mrs. Elton and John Thorpe, people of bad taste and underbred manners, such as are actually found sometimes mingling with better society. She has nothing resembling the Brangtons or Mr. Dubster and his friend Tom Hicks, with whom Madame D'Arblay loved to season her stories and to produce striking contrasts to her well-bred characters.